What's going on, guys? My name is Drew, and I am here simply to share my perspective on many of the biggest questions that we have about our personal lives. So a lot of this stuff that I like to talk about is because these are things that I have personally resolved and improved in my own life, and that's my emotional health, my ability to perform in whatever area of my life I need to perform in, and just overall growing of yourself, self-awareness, that type of stuff. So a few months back, I was having a conversation with one of my buddies. Actually, it's probably about a year ago. And we were both talking about how we're not in the places that we necessarily want to be right now. You know, we both have things that we want to do that are not our day job, and those things do require just more work because there's so many more skills involved in it. And, you know, one of the things that kept popping up is this, like, timing and, like, all these other things we have to do, all these other problems we need to solve. And, you know, as we were going through that conversation, he asked me, do you think that we're ever actually going to get rid of any of all these problems? And after thinking back on it, you know, I'd spent years trying to, you know, solve all of my, you know, anxiety problems and my financial problems, and although those are all solvable, I was focusing in the wrong areas and the wrong problems. What I'm meaning is not every problem in our lives are meant to solve. And these are typically things that are just outside of us that we don't have any direct type of control over. So one I like to use is a toxic friend in your friend group. So most friend groups will have that, like, one, maybe a second person that's pretty toxic for the most part and kind of drains everybody, but you can't exactly pull yourself away, because not everybody else is as agitated maybe as you are, or some people are just a little bit more accepting of some things, and it's not practical to completely pull away from the friend group, and nobody's going to kick that person out. So what can you really do in that situation? I mean, it's either A, you just stop hanging out with them, or B, you just learn to live with it. And I also, you know, we're not ever going to actually get rid of all of the toxic people in our life, ever. Like, there's always going to be toxic people, and I think when people hear get rid of toxic people in your life, they don't also grasp the fact that those people aren't ever going away. It's just the time that you choose and the energy you choose to put into them. So these types of problems are never going to end. Same with you being busy all the time. Like, that's not ever actually going to be a problem, because our brains are wired to find things to do and to constantly be searching for more. Like, that's just how we are biologically made up. And it's silly to think that you're ever going to actually get over that. And I think when we can come to terms with those types of problems, we can actually reflect on solutions that are at least going to help mitigate our anxiety towards it. Because anxiety, I mean, the real thing about anxiety is just how you relate to it, right? And, like, with things like, for me, insecurity was a big one. And that's something that no matter how big or strong I got in the gym, it doesn't fix any of that insecurity that's deep down. Some of that stuff I've just come to terms with. It's just in me, and I'm just gonna have to learn to deal with it more and be able to quickly move on from the problems that I'm choosing to focus on in regards to that insecurity. And I'm somebody that typically you would look at and think there's no way he has insecurity. But it's not that simple, because I do have these things, but I've also learned how that's really a problem I'm not going to be able to completely get rid of. So I might as well learn to live with it and just kind of let it be there and find healthier ways of processing it. There's a quote from Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching, and it says, "The world is ruled by letting things take their course. It cannot be ruled by interfering." And I think this is really important, because there are so many things that we can't directly influence, and we have to just let things take their course. If you think about a lot of problems that you haven't solved, a lot of them just solve themselves without you having to do anything about it. And I think that's an important perspective to really look at, is be like, how many of these problems that I've had have actually found a way to resolve themselves without me actually having to do anything about it. And I think from my experience, there's a lot more problems than you think that would work out that way if you would just kind of let things go and only focus on the problems that you actually can control and can influence. And we always, like, we want just no problems at all, but without problems, we don't have that feeling of joy of not having problems, at least in a particular period of those problems are always going to be there, and it really is about the process of solving those problems or just letting those go to the wayside so you can focus on the problems that you actually want to focus on. That's the real key to, I guess, what most people would actually see as solving their problems, is having the freedom to actually pick the problems that they choose to want to solve and be responsible for. And that's certainly helped for me because I've chosen to put my problems that I'm trying to solve into things at work or my fitness, because some of the things that I want to are directly in control of me and my actions. Meaning, since I'm in sales, making more money is just done by talking to more people, reaching out to more people. And with my fitness, like, that stuff comes straight from my discipline in the kitchen and how consistently I'm working out in the gym. And like, I don't want people to think this is all saying to give up on your problems. I'm saying you have to learn to take a step back and have a new perspective on what real problems are and ones that your direct input are going to influence and the ones that don't. I've thought about a framework that kind of helped me really jumpstart kind of ciphering through all of the different processes, or all of the different questions and problems that I felt like I had at the time. And the first is to actually just analyze the problem. So ask yourself, like, is there immediate action that I can take on this? No. Okay. Is it a recurring problem? No. Can't really do anything about it. In fact, if you can't even take action on it, there's not really a problem, other than there are some environments where you would need to pull yourself out of. If that case is, do that. But generally, if you can't do anything about it, then just don't. Like, you can't help it. And then ask, like, if it is something that's a recurrent problem and continues, and it's something that you constantly stress about. So for me, one of my big ones was my receding hairline. And, hair is one of those things that a lot of people take a lot of pride in, but it's not. I can live without it. And it's not something that I can really help. It's genetic. I'm born that way. So that's something that was dumb to try to, like, I'm not going to spend all this money on, hair loss treatment and all this other stuff. Like, it's something I can't fix. And I think that's how a lot of people need to look at a lot of different problems that we have when we don't have a whole lot of influence outside of it. When you can learn to zoom out, what this really does is puts yourself as if you're looking at your emotions like stress and anxiety as a separate thing, because now you're kind of starting to think more. This is like a really good starting point for self-awareness too, because you're starting to question your own thoughts and you're questioning what you're choosing to actually put your time and energy into and your mental focus on. Because I'm a big believer that what you focus on is what you see in the world, and that is the world that's projected to you. And that's even, in regards to emotions, and your emotions are a projection of the world that you are living in. So you're kind of creating it all up here, and then it's just repeating back to you how you're seeing it. And I think by being able to understand that not all of your problems are solvable, and choosing to prioritize which problems you are going to focus on, with the main factor being things that you can directly control, you're going to be able to regulate yourself better. It's going to lead to better emotional health because you are actively choosing what you are going to stress about. But because that thing that you're stressing about is moving you towards the goal, the ultimate goal that you actually want. And I think that's the most important thing about this entire questioning of your problems. Are they actually problems, or is it something that you're choosing to focus on because that's just how you've been conditioned growing up? That being said, I hope this helps, or at least gives some sort of insight. So thanks for watching. Keep going.